What's up? What's up? What's up? And welcome back to After the Snap. It's me, Tasha Pierce, and we are here today to talk about one hell of a Star Trek episode. I guess I'm showing my hand kind of early, but Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 8. This one was called Under the Cloak of War. Of course, we are going to do news first and some Beyond the Holodeck because that's the order of the show. But I cannot wait to talk this one out a little bit. Spectacular episode. Hey there, Angus. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the party. So yeah, of course, we're going to do news first because that's the order of the show, like I said before. And we got a little bit of news. Hey, Justin, how goes it? So yeah, we got a little bit of news to get into. A little bit of news. And we might as well just jump right in. Why wait? Why wait? It's Killy's birthday, y'all. It's Killy Tilly Mary Wiseman. It's her birthday. So happy birthday to Mary Wiseman. I don't know how old she's turning today. But we hope that she has a very happy birthday. Now, let's get into some stuff. I'm going to pull this over here so I can see it. Okay, so we know this week's Strange New World episode is the musical Subspace Rhapsody. Yeah, Justin, everything is everything over here. Glad to know that you're doing well. Okay, so we know we got Subspace Rhapsody, which is the musical episode that is coming this week, Thursday, unless they switch something up. But today, the what was I going to think? The previews for the music is out. So you can, now there are spoilers if you listen to those previews all the way through. You may get a little gist of what the episode is about. So if you don't want to know what the episode, you want to go in kind of blind, you might want to steer clear of the musical previews. But the original songs for Subspace Rhapsody, the Subspace Rhapsody episode of Star Trek, were composed by Kay Hanley and Tom Posey. I hope I'm saying that right. Of the rock band Letters to Cleo. So if you're a Letters to Cleo fan, and you might really like the music, you can listen to the Subspace Rhapsody original series soundtrack on Apple Music. You can also buy the soundtrack online from Lakeshore Records. There is a link in the description that will take you directly to the Apple Music playlist. So, of course, Subspace Rhapsody is the penultimate episode of the second season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And we got some song titles. The song titles do not offer any spoilers. So here they are. We have the main theme, which is going to be harmonizing. I listened to some of it. I didn't listen to the whole song of any of them, but I did listen to a preview of each one of the songs. We have Status Report, Connect to Your Truth, How Would That Feel, Private Conversation, Keeping Secrets, I'm Ready, I'm the X, Hey there, hey there. I was gonna say, hey there, Star Trek. Hey there, Clarence. So where was I at? Where was I at? Oh, keeping secrets. I'm ready. I'm the X. Keep us connected. We are one. And then we get the end credit medley. So there were a few little rumors out there that we were going to get a Star Trek version of Subs or of Bohemian Rhapsody. It doesn't look like it, especially if these are all the songs that we're getting. This playlist is about 32 minutes long. Let me check that again. So it's 11 songs, 32 minutes. So we got 30. I don't know if they'd be able to put another song in there if they're going to figure out a way to introduce the fact that we're singing into the episode as well, because I get the feeling we're going to get some explanation for why we sing it. So let me see. Justice says, wow, letters to Cleo. Now there's a name I haven't heard in a while. Well, yes, they are the songwriters. And then we have Clarence says, are we ready for this? I have no idea how I will feel about this one, but like you've been saying, Tasha, big swings. Yeah, man. I'm going to be optimistic. Now, hey, Miss Powell, glad to see you back, hon. Glad to see you back. And Angus says, I know reservations about a musical episode. I think we're all a little bit, we're having a little bit of trepidation about this episode. However, for the most part, this has been a splendid season. So let's do it. Let's do it. The songs, from what I have heard of the songs, they're songs. Now, again, I haven't listened to any of the songs all the way through. I only listened to little snippets of each one. I'm not going to listen to any of them all the way through because they do offer spoilers. So if you didn't hear me the first time, there are some spoilers, mild ones in these previews. So be careful listening to the music if you don't want to know what's going to happen in the episode until we get to the episode. Yeah, said it's one in almost 900 episodes. I think that we can deal, and it might be fantastic. We never know. We don't know until we watch the episode. Angus is pointing us back to the Buffy episode once more with feeling, and a musical episode of a show that's typically not a musical, and they knocked it out the park. The episode that I was thinking of last week where I could not remember, like, what show was it? The Flash. The Flash did a musical episode and it was pretty darn good. So I think that they would not have tried this if they didn't think they could pull it off. So hopefully they are right. And most of us, because it's no case scenario where all of us are going to enjoy this episode. And I mean, by us, I mean the fandom, because we got parts of the fandom who really hate everything about this season. So we know that we can't please all the people all the time. We're not going to try. But if this episode at least fulfills the wishes of the bigger percentage of the fandom, I'm okay with that. Justice says, I like that band. I grew up with them. I'm actually feeling good on this. Good. I'm glad that you are a little more familiar with Letters to Cleo than I am. I don't know, like, what song would point me in their direction where I should know them, if I should know their music. Let me see. I'm gonna look them up. Letters to Cleo. Because I don't know. I don't know what they sing. Aurora, Gory, Alice. Oh, no. Here and Now. I Want You to Want Me. Is that the song I'm thinking? That can't be it. That can't be it. Let's look. No, that's not the song I'm thinking of. But yeah, I don't know their music, but it's okay. Oh, okay. Once More with Feeling was pretty darn good. And Miss Powell says Uhura sang twice in TOS. She sure did. And um, then we had the hippie episode, but I told y'all how I felt about the hippie episode. I'm not going I'm not gonna complain too much. But that hippie episode was a little bit of a little bit of a it was a bit much. Okay, Angus says, imagine if Kang's battle with Kirk on the Enterprise was done via interpretive dance instead of conjured blades. Freaky godlike alien shenanigans is a Star Trek staple. I'm looking to see, like how we're gonna to introduce the singing, but as far as the episode goes, I am willing to give it a chance. I'm not throwing this the whole baby away with the bathwater. Um, I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be pretty good. Okay, so then we can move on because I want to, Lord, because we're gonna talk about the Star Trek Las Vegas convention. There was some question about whether or not the celebrities would be in attendance. So while this year's event will be held while in the midst of this two Hollywood strikes, it looks like that hasn't had an impact on the guest lineup for the Star Trek Las Vegas event. They put together, or we've got some highlights of the unofficial Trek event. So that is what makes it possible for them to attend, because this is not an official Trek event. It's an unofficial event. It's not lined up with any of the studios. Thus, they can, these actors and uh, actresses can attend. So some of the big names that are going to be at Star Trek Las Vegas are William Shatner, of course, Anson Mount, Jerry Ryan, Sonequa Martin Green, Tawny Newsome, Jonathan Frakes, Linda Park, Nana Visitor, Michelle Hurd. In fact, most of the Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Picard cast will be in Vegas this next weekend. So there's also a special Next Generation reunion with almost the entire cast. And there are a number of first-time Star Trek convention guests, like Paul Wesley from Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Fans are also going to find many other stars and guest stars from their favorite shows. This includes guest stars like Todd Stashwick from Picard, Andrew Robinson from DS9, and many more, including multi-appearance guest stars like John Delancey, Jeffrey Combs, John Shook, and Vaughn Armstrongs. They even have Elias Tufexis. He's going to be in the upcoming fifth and final season of Star Trek Discovery. And this year, the guest list also extends beyond Star Trek at Star Trek Las Vegas to include the Orville, with 5 of the stars of Seth MacFarlane's homage to TNG lined up to attend, including Adrian Patlocki. It's going to be a big event. Um, Wig Grace, I caught your comment. Feel free to start now. You didn't miss much. So you're going to have the cast of some of your favorite Star Trek, and then also the cast of the Orville. So they're kind of like bringing them on into the family. And I really hope we get that was it 4th season of the Orville. I'm still crossing my fingers about that, but of course we're going to have to wait probably for an announcement. Anyway, celebrities are going to still be doing their panels, and although SAG does have some restrictions regarding what they can talk about, they'll still be doing their autographing photos and that sort of thing, but they do have to they do have to be careful what they talk about. So there'll probably be questions or comments that they cannot make because of the strikes. Um, Now, I finally watched I finally listened to the episode of the Delta Flyers that Clarence had been imploring all of us to listen to, talking about, and it was featuring Michelle Hurd and Armin Shimmerman and some other folks who are very instrumental in SAG and crafting the guidelines for certain things. So, yes, Michelle Hurd from Star Trek Picard and other things. We know her from a lot of different things. She is on the SAG negotiating committee, and she helped negotiate the rules for stars at the convention. So thank you for mentioning that, Miss Powell. Um, so those are our big pieces of news. So we got some beyond the holodecks, and let me see. I don't know if that's as big as I hoped it would turn out for you all. But this is Admiral Cartwright. He's somebody else too, but we're gonna pretend like he's only Admiral Cartwright. So this is a comment that I got from Ryan Guthrie on Facebook. Admiral Cartwright was in 2 movies, Voyage Home and Undiscovered Country. He was part of the conspiracy to start a war between the Klingon Empire and the Federation. And based on appearances, he's probably a contemporary of Kirk and Spock. So, episode 8 of Strange New Worlds had Ryan thinking about Admiral Cartwright, Undiscovered Country, and the lasting effects of the Klingon War. When Spock began talks to dismantle the Klingon neutral zone and told Kirk, the Klingons are dying, and Kirk famously replied, let them die. It's a given that a lot, if not most, of Kirk's animosity stems from what happened to David. But it's worth noting that Kirk fought in the war and Spock did not. Now, considering M'Benga's trauma and actions, Ryan is inclined to look at Cartwright in a slightly more forgiving light. And he wants Strange New Worlds to have a younger version of him portrayed in an episode and maybe explore his own experiences from the war. So one of the things that that he suggested is that they give this Cartwright angle of a Strange New World episode uh, with an Ortega's twist, that Cartwright and Ortega's serve together. And that could be a good kind of B storyline for a future episode. So I said all of that to ask you guys, what would you think of seeing the character Admiral Cartwright as a lieutenant, or even, a younger officer in Starfleet? How would you feel about exploring that character's background a little bit more in Star Trek Strange New Worlds? Now I'm gonna pick up this comment. Angus says it was a good listen, if a little dry with business talk. Yeah, that right there, that episode, because I listened to a few episodes of the Delta Flyers, and it's not normally that talk. That was like a special kind of segment where they wanted to discuss SAG and the Writers Guild and all of what's going on. Hey there, Dreamwalker. Said you wouldn't mind seeing Cartwright again. I don't know why my mouth is not doing. I'm thinking the words and my mouth is saying other stuff. So anywho, yeah. So Angus, it's not generally as dry. um, Ms. Powell says, do we know that Kirk fought in the Klingon War? We know from TOS that Kirk was witness to a despot killing civilians, Kodos the executioner. That is going to come up a little bit later for me. I'm glad you brought that up. Excuse me. Um, Clara says, I thought they were going to tie the soldier Mbanga talked to into something. And yeah, they talked to they tied him into something, all right. Diane, he's one of the red shirts that because you notice he did have on a red shirt. And we knew that when he went to this quote unquote suicide mission, we knew how it was going to turn out for Ensign Inman. But yeah, they tied him into something. Justice says, I dislike that they turned Cartwright into a villain. It was a shock after he was in Star Trek 4, but I would love to bring Cartwright back. Dreamwalker says, maybe in another 40 years, we'll get a show going back to April. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I really and truly would not. Yeah, Clarence, that episode of Delta Flyers was very insider talk. The episodes that I've listened to have been very episode centric, and they do have a little bit of maybe technical talk once in a blue moon, but for the most part, it's a pretty lighthearted conversation most of the time. Angus says, more Klingon war stories. Don't threaten me with a good time. Look, I enjoyed. Now, would I want to live here? No, I don't want to live here, but I enjoy uh, episodes that take a look at the Federation's uh, how the Federation's ideals hold up in a wartime scenario. I truly do. I don't want to live in this space, but I do like that occasional exploration that we get. When Grace says, I wouldn't mind seeing them based on how on how polarized episode 8 has made people. I don't know how it would go down. People going people. And I'm not saying that you had to love or enjoy the episode, but come on now. Every episode is not written. It's like nobody is sitting down except for me. Nobody is sitting down and saying, I'm going to write with Tasha in mind, just her. And every episode is going to ring her bell. Nobody is doing that, so some of them are not going to resonate with you. And it's okay to say this one didn't resonate with me, and it's okay to tell us why, but let's just stop with the over the top doom and gloom conversation surrounding this really pretend universe. As much as we love it, it's not real. Okay, Rick, I see you. I worry about small galaxy syndrome. That can become an issue where everybody knows everybody and everybody comes across everybody. I get what you're saying. Clarence is down for an April movie. That might be a good approach to exploring April a little bit more. Miss Powell says, watch the Seventh Rule podcast with the director of this episode. Very informative. Inman turns out to be a colleague of the writer who works on the show. Now, I read an article, I won't listen to this podcast, but I did read an article that did provide some of what the thinking was behind some of the decisions made with this episode. And I really do like for the most part, what Davy Perez, the writer, and was it Jeff Byrd? Jeff Byrd, I believe, was the director. I like a lot of the thinking that went into creating the episode and the script. And I think for me, the script worked better than the directing. We'll get into it a little bit more. I know I can't just leave stuff like that. We're going to have to talk about it. Yeah, I agree. I think it was meant to make us think and debate. And if that was the case, mission is accomplished. And I agree. Because the scene with the final scene between Mbanga and Ra Dakra are intentionally ambiguous. And I'm very, very interested in hearing your guys' thoughts as we move through this episode. What do you think really happened in that scene? It's not real? No, unfortunately. Now look, it's as real as you feel like it is. So if you believe really, 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 really hard that this Star Trek universe is real, then it is. I won't yuck on your yum. um Justice says, I agree. April movie would be interesting. I'm down to y'all. Miss Powell says, I think that's less a thing in Trek as in real militaries. Many folks in the same age group, academy group, travel in similar work circles throughout their careers. Um, and this is true. We don't necessarily have to see these characters, but I mean we've already come across some people in not just uh this iteration of Trek. We've already come across a few folks that we should not have come across in Star Trek. Like Pike running into the chick that he used to date back in the day, just bumping into her in the galaxy. That is, of course, we learned that it was kind of orchestrated, but that's something that don't happen. The Discovery crew meeting Mud. You see what I'm saying? So it's something that does happen in Trek. It doesn't have to happen. It does make the universe an awful lot smaller when you bump into these characters who are not in any way omnipotent. I can understand how we keep bumping into Q because he can be wherever he wants at whatever time he wants. But then you got these other characters who are kind of live a linear lifestyle, and we bump into them all over the place. I think Mbanga decided to kill him and wasn't just defending himself. Just bumping into Boimler and Mariner. Yeah, that might be a. Yeah, these things happen. We bump into random people who we really should not bump into. And it's still, yes, it's still bigger than the Star Wars universe because everybody, they all neighbors. They literally all live right across the street from each other. I'm so sorry. This cough is the last thing to go, I'm telling you. I bet there are not as many folks in Starfleet as we think. Now, maybe, especially in the early, this isn't the earliest days of Starfleet, but this is still kind of early based on where we end up going. That's good. That's a good thought. The organization grows as the need grows, as they move out and explore all of these new strange new worlds. They need more bodies in Starfleet. I can roll with that. Not today, Q. Not today. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next Beyond the Holodeck because we want to get to the main event. And the main event here is this episode. Wow. Okay, so in this episode, Mbanga was working on a bio bed, and he said the one bio bed has been giving him problems since the Gorn situation. So this is a what if situation presented by a Facebook user, Scott McCowan. He says, what if Gorn residue is somewhere within that bed growing? Now look, we saw Mbanga feel like he had managed, maybe not fixed or repaired, but that he had managed this bed for a little while. And as soon as he turned his back, we saw something else happen to that bed. The bed was not, it didn't even have a band-aid on it. The bed broke immediately. So we know that Mbanga mentions that bed hadn't worked since the episode one the season one episode, Memento Mori. Is it possible that there is Gorn residue in that bed, just festering? So that's just a question. Yeah, Miss Powell, because they brought the bio bed up. How many times in the episode? Was it 2 or 3? So, and they made a point of talking about this bed and made it a plot point, and it's almost like Chekhov's gun, just a little bit. You're interested if this episode is the first act of the final the final chapter of this season, then we know that that bed is going to come back into play before this season is over. Hopefully that is that, where they're going, but I'm thinking the same thing that Scott is thinking and Miss Powell is thinking. That bed is going to come back into play. Now we got Wingrace saying, I like to think that Cisco just popped in on Q unannounced after he ascended and became an annoyance to Q. Or maybe he went and apologized for punching him in the face. You think he apologized? Wingrace says, I thought the bed was just supposed to be a metaphor for his soul. He just can't fix it after the war. Ooh, excuse me. And I can see that because it definitely is a metaphor, especially after he said some things can never be repaired, they can only be managed. So he's talking about, that thing that broke in him during the war. It can never be fixed. It can only, he can only try to control it. And so, yes, but also the fact that that bed acted back up after he had this moment and he put this band-aid on this bed and then it turned around and flashed red and something was happening with it again, and I don't remember what it read, but I think that this bed is going to come back into play in some way, shape, or form. I could be wrong. It will be a missed opportunity if they don't bring that bed back as a plot point or a plot device. So then Clarence is also saying, I thought the bio bed was just a metaphor that M'Benga is broken. He made a very specific reference to Memento Mori, the Gorn attack. Now, it could be just another, this is another symptom of a war or a battle that we fought, and this bed hasn't been right since we fought this battle, and this could only be the only reference of the bed. But I truly feel like, and I said the same thing about that Khan episode. What was the name of the episode? Y'all know the episode where we met Khan. I said the same thing about that gun. I really and truly believe that some of the things that people are saying, oh, it's just something that these writers just did. I believe that these are very intentional choices and that they have something in mind for why they did the things that they do. I don't think these are accidents, and I don't think it's just bad managing of a set, because leaving a gun in a room with a 10-year-old in the climate that we're in right now in America is a very bad look, unless you have something that is going to piggyback on. You know what I'm saying? And Claire saying, yeah, but the theories sound good. The theories sound good. Chekhov's bio bed, yes. Chekhov's bio bed. And you're right, Miss Powell. I believe it's both as well. And it's a really good metaphor. It's really a good metaphor. And M'Benga Babs pulls that off, baby. When you start looking at how he conducts himself. Now, I have never been to war. I was in the military. I never saw a day of war or combat. I've never been in any active situation. But I have been reading messages from people who have been in combat and who have experienced war. And they are really big on this episode and saying that somebody is getting it right. You're not going to understand because you've never been there. You're going to try to understand because we're empathetic humans. But at the end of the day, if you've not experienced the atrocities of real war, you're not going to understand it. And these people, these veterans who have actually been in combat situations and who are also Star Trek fans are saying, finally, they've nailed it. And I can't argue with that. I have to defer to the experts in that area. And in that area, those people are really talking. They're not disappointed at all with the portrayals, because it's easy for us to get wrapped up in these are supposed to be heroes. Now, these are first and foremost organic beings, whether they're human or something else. They're organic beings. And whether or not they're supposed to be Starfleet heroes is one thing. But your reaction, it's almost like when you think about how the United States, after World War II, brought some of the Nazi scientists over to the United States because they had some things that we got some things over here that you guys will be able to help us with. So we're going to clean up your reputations just a bit and bring you over to the States. Now imagine having fought in that war, World War II. That was a pretty big deal. And have to be in the same room as a Werner von Braun. That is what Starfleet asked of its veterans when they brought Ambassador Doc Ra onto the flagship of the Federation. So just another thing to think. I'm still picking up. I'm liking your comments. I'm still picking up comments. We got 11 people in the chat today, y'all. That's a lot of people for me. So please make sure that you are hitting the like button. And if you've not yet done so, subscribe to the channel. We do this every Sunday, or we do it once a week. I ain't even going to say Sunday because, yeah, we do it once a week. Oh, Clarence repeated, Wind Grace. Let's see. The bio bed is suspect, like the transporters in Picard were. Exactly. And we know, you keep saying, I'm like, I know we're coming back to them transporters. I know we're going to get back to these transporters. Something's going on with these transporters. And it was the very last episode, like a throwaway line, but we came back to them transporters. It flashed system alert on the bed. Thank you for remembering what it said, because all I remember was red writing. You think it'll all connect with his daughter. Now we got to see him where that idea for keeping his daughter in the transport buffer originated. I thought that was a nice tie-in for this episode. What's going on tomorrow? Tomorrow, that was the name of it. Yeah, I was like, what's going on tomorrow? Yeah, that was the name of the episode. Oh gosh, that Khan episode, right? It's just a bad look. Am I right? Because she puts the gun down in his room, and then she consoles him, and then she leaves the gun there. And now look, if this probably would have happened maybe in the 90s, we wouldn't probably even, they could have just left the gun there. But in 2023, when kids getting hold of guns create an awful lot of problems, I would think that would be a huge oversight. That would be something that they would have wanted to correct in post if that wasn't supposed to be there and it wasn't supposed to mean something. I hope that that's going to come back, because if it doesn't, it was a really bad look. Clarence says, I'm thinking the events of this episode are going to lead to M'Benga not being the CMO any longer by TOS. And you said it. You said it in the first episode when we first were introduced to the super soldier serum, what we now know is Protocol 12. You said that. You said, I got a feeling that this Protocol 12, which you didn't say it, you didn't call it Protocol 12. That would have made you psychic. But you said you had a feeling that this is going to lead us into why M'Benga is not around in TOS as the chief medical officer. And everything since then has been kind of, there's been threads showing that this is probably the thread they're going to pull for M'Benga to somehow at least exit the Enterprise. So yeah, I think you're right. Oh, so Inman is a writer on the Section 31 movie. Now that is an interesting tidbit. I don't think I saw that. And did we get to going back to that comment, because it made me think about Section 31. And I know I'm all over the place today because we haven't even gotten to the main event. We're already talking about the main event. But do you think that we got some Section 31 vibes? Was that was that tactical unit that was headed by Trask? Was that kind of Section 31 Black Ops? Was it that kind of thing? And then you got it makes me feel like at one point this Black Ops team was M'Benga was a part of it. He was a scientist. He made up this Protocol 12. They used it, and they found out that for whatever reason they wanted to discontinue the use of it. Is this like another piece of Section 31? Because it looks that way to me. And I could be wrong. So it could just be a Black Ops unit in the military, but it also could be tying into that somehow. So y'all tell me what you think. When Gray says, I hope the biobeds don't cause a musical virus either. And if he could not find a role for himself in peace, we can pity him, but we shall not dismiss him. Picard from The Wounded. A good quote, by the way. Okay, Miss Powell says, I actually think there's an error in the last chapel interrogation scene, but I'll ask about it at the end. I hope somebody was paying attention, because I don't know. Usually I can I know what you're talking about. I can't even think of what you're talking about. So hopefully somebody was paying closer attention than I was. Justin says, yes, you were on point with the transporter. This episode and episode 2 this season were the best so far. I feel the same way. Even though I really and truly loved the gosh, why can't I remember the names of episodes? These old scientists, I loved that episode for what it was, which was a brilliant crossover episode with implications, right? This episode here made me think. It made me think. I had to step outside of the box. It took me back to several episodes, and I guess we can get to that, huh? But while I'm talking about it, our last Beyond the Holodeck is, what episodes of Trek did you flash back to during Strange New Worlds Under the Cloak of War? Where does it stack as one of Trek's dark episodes? Because that is what I appreciated about this episode. You have to go through some of the darkest times to get to that bright, sunny future. And we saw it done so well. And I'm trying not to say my thoughts. One of my thoughts, however, is gosh, what is the name of that doggone episode? I got it written down. Okay. One of the episodes that I was thinking about was The Conscience of the King. And that's the one that Miss Powell brought up a little while ago. That had the actor traveling in this drama troupe, and he came on the Enterprise, and Kirk had the feeling that he was a former governor who ordered a mass murder 20 years earlier. So Kirk was trying to prove that this actor was a war criminal. I loved that episode, and this gave me those vibes in a very minute kind of way. I got those vibes. Then I got also from Duet, the episode of Deep Space Nine, where the visiting Cardassian Maritza was thought to be a war criminal, Gul Darrell, butcher of Galatap. That's the way I remember it. And Kira is determined to bring him down. Then, of course, in the pale moonlight, one of the darkest episodes of Deep Space Nine, of Trek, period, because Cisco was complicit in some very, very morally ambiguous ish. And he was okay with it. He was fine with it because it was for the greater good. And also the siege of AR 558, another Deep Space Nine episode. So we had 3 Deep Space Nine episodes that fall into the dark realm, and that this episode it gave me those vibes. I loved it. I love all of these episodes that I just talked about. What episodes did it remind you of? When Grace says, I thought the green liquid was going to be a drug addiction story that led him to leave. I like this better. I do too. I like the fact that he created this super soldier serum, and they realized that maybe it had some adverse effects. They say, let's not use it anymore. He still has a little cachet of it that he's carried around, but he can also make it whenever he wants to. And boy, he used it to wreck shop at the end of this episode. Lord, Trask was special ops. So is special ops a branch or a part or under the umbrella of Section 31? That's my question. Like, we know that they are like some kind of like SEAL Team 6 in the real world. They are some kind of special, like you said, special ops. There's some special operations. They have skills, and it was odd to me that, well, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, I'm wondering if that special operations team is part of Section 31. Would Section 31 do black ops against the Klingons? I mean, if Section 31 wouldn't, we have a special ops team that did. I'm not 100% sure I'm understanding where we going. It felt very Section 31, Starfleet security Makos. Yeah, I was like torn between whether it would be like the Mako unit that we saw in Enterprise, or I'm still like leaning towards, they come out in these black suits, which would still be what you would wear if you were special ops or black ops or whatever. But it just made me feel like they were part of this, even though, advertising that you are Section 31 ain't the smartest thing to do either. But when you saw Inman at the end, Inman's he was in the red suit. It was like it was very obvious that they were like making sure that we knew that Inman was not gonna make it out of this episode. Clarence says, I can see the Section 31 movie being another crossover event. Makes sense that M'Benga would be in it. Huh, that would be nice. The Conscience of the King with Kodo. So we are on the same page, Miss Powell. The Wounded, Jatrell, and Duet. Jatrell for you. I gotta remember what Jatrell the Jatrell was. Let me see. I gotta look it up. Star Trek Voyager, Season 1, Episode 14. Neelix confronts his past. Oh, okay, when the Hakonian scientist who created the doomsday weapon that killed his family comes aboard the ship to conduct experiments. I don't even remember this episode. But y'all know, I told y'all once upon a time, I was a Star Trek Voyager snob. So This could be just because I was a snob. I didn't particularly like it. I was one of those. I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. Miss Powell says, was Kirk on the Farragut doing Kodos, or was he a colony member? I can't remember. I thought he was a colony member. Yeah, I thought he remembered it from that vantage point. But I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. Great scenes between Neelix and Tratrell. I'm gonna have to watch that episode. I know I've seen it, but I'm gonna have to watch it again. Angus says it's probably addictive, talking about Protocol 12 and seriously harsh on the body. And he did say that it was bad for your body, like heart attack territory. Yeah. Love the black wartime medical uniforms. Man, I loved everything about the way they set that up. I kind of was the directorial choices that I wasn't 100% on board with, but I can understand why we had to do it. We did a lot of flashing back and forth and back and forth. But what the people who have suffered from PTSD said in some of their comments about this episode is that's how it feels. So whereas I felt like, oh my, this is jarring. We coming back and forth and blah, blah, blah. That's how they really feel. They feel like anything can take them out of the moment that they're in and take them to the moment or to one of the worst moments of their lives during combat. So while it felt so, it felt so abrupt sometimes for me, that is an intentional act on behalf of the directors. So I liked that after I got a little bit of context as to why they were doing that. It wasn't just we're doing this because they were doing it to give us the feeling of a person who suffers from PTSD. Now I have panic attacks, and that what Mbanga went through when he first saw Doc Ra come into the sick bay, I felt that. I felt every moment of that because that, it's just well done. A person who completely understands or who took the opportunity or the time to talk to somebody who suffers from these things and incorporated it in their work. And I loved it. And the actor. Yeah. Justice says they were Starfleet, but they had the vibe. They did some un-Starfleet deeds. And another thing that the director, and let's see if I can pull up the director, Jeff Byrd, said something to the effect. Do I have the article still pulled up? I don't think I do. Because I suck. I was reading this article earlier, so it's like I didn't know that I was going to come back to this, but he said that basically, and I'm going to pull the article and share it with you guys. Sorry, I'm going to pull this article and share because I know you guys. I keep referencing the article, and I might as well share it with you. So there was this interview, trekmovie.com. I always use trekmovie.com or trekcore.com. You guys, I've made that announcement before. So this was an interview that I got from there. Strange New Worlds director Jeff Byrd on exploring the dark soul of Star Trek at War. The latest episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Under the Cloak of War was directed by Jeff Byrd, who has directed for the franchise before with the fourth season Discovery episode, Rosetta. Byrd began his decades-long career as a protege of Spike Lee, working as an intern in the camera department on films like Mo Better Blues and Malcolm X, and eventually moving up to directing music videos in the 90s, then transitioning to feature films or television in 2000. He's a co-executive producer on the critically acclaimed Showtime series Yellow Jackets, but still keeps his hand in directing for other shows. So I'm not going to read this whole episode, this whole interview, but I am going to pick up some of the things that he said that you guys hit on. So the interviewer, and let me see who's the interviewer here. Anthony Pascal. Anthony Pascal asked, you mentioned research for this episode. Were there specific war movies or maybe Star Trek episodes you look to for inspiration? And Byrd says, it's interesting you bring that up because Davy Perez definitely looked at an OG Star Trek episode and a Deep Space Nine episode, guessing that it was the Siege of AR 558. And yes, and for the original series, I would guess the Vietnam War allegory, A Private Little War. I didn't even think about that one, but yeah, that works too. So yes, the one where they're selling the weapons and keep upgrading. So a lot of those were brought into this script wise and then realized by me on set visually. Obviously, there are comparisons in here to Apocalypse Now. There's a little Hamburger Hill in there, even some Born on the 4th of July. Movies that I don't either I have never seen or I don't remember. Okay, so this episode has fans talking about the moral gray areas and questionable actions, which brings up other episodes like In the Pale Moonlight. People still debate if Janeway is a murderer from Tuvix. So for this, what is the audience to take away from M'Benga's choices and those of Chapel as well? And Byrd answered, the message there and what happened in there is really about trust. How much does Captain Pike trust what Chapel is saying and what M'Benga is saying? It's about the trust of your allies and your friend. And then in the back of your mind, you've got to think, are they lying to me? Just like you said about Captain Janeway, was it self-defense? Was it not self-defense here for M'Benga? And is Chapel lying about it all? How much does she know? So now you have to either trust me or move on or put me in the brig. And that's the choices that Pike was left with in his official capacity as captain. But it's also the only choices I'm giving you. I told you what I told you. This is M'Benga. I told you that no, M'Benga didn't tell him nothing. M'Benga said, he dead, I'm glad he gone, basically. Chapel told a story, and Chapel was like, look, you either gonna believe me or you're not. What you gonna do? But at the end of the day, my story is not gonna change. So you either gonna lock me and him up, or you gonna move on. Now, those are your options. So they shot a bunch of different scenes for Ra's death, and they did that so that the executive producers can pick the scene that they wanted, the way that they wanted it portrayed, and they chose to go with the opaque glass. So here's that statement that I wanted to pick up. Speaking of Ra, it was great to see Robert Wisdom. I've been a fan since The Wire. Ra was a very different kind of Klingon. He kept us guessing about his motivations. Was that you, Robert, or Davy, or what are we supposed to take away? Was Ra genuinely reformed or just a coward and opportunist? And I've got my thoughts, and I'm just gonna put it out there now, and we don't have to do this in no linear order. I thought Ra is just a freaking coward that instead of dying and facing death like all the rest of the Klingon lieutenants under him, he was comfortable directing people to do some of the most atrocious acts in the Klingon Federation war. And then when it was his turn to die, he turned and pretended to be embracing these Federation ideals and became an opportunist. Basically, he said, "Hey, here's my opportunity to live, and even if I have to pretend to be down with the Federation's cause, I'll do that." Now, I could be reading it one way and you could be reading it another. I would love to hear about it in the comments, y'all. But Jeff Byrd said, I love that you asked that question because that's on purpose. I'll give you the inside baseball stuff. The great Bob Wisdom, in his heart, Ra had changed, but Ra has obviously leanings towards his own life. But in his heart of hearts, Ra had changed, but also really wanted an ally in M'Benga. I think he saw in his mind, this will help me get retribution for all the terrible stuff I've done. And if I can get some Starfleet allies, that would be great. But still, I have a little bit in me of the Butcher of Jagal. For Jeff and Davy, when they were crafting it, his version was Rob was a bit of a sellout in that regard, but he's a sellout for the right reasons, meaning I see what the damage my Klingon culture has done, and I want to at least make amends for the bad side of it that has affected me and all the people I've killed in that regard. So it was a little bit of that in there from him in his direction of Mr. Wisdom. And for Davy, it was all things. All things can be encompassed in one thing and in one being, which I love that too. I love the fact that everything is not all bad, everything is not all good. I really and truly like the fact that the it's up for interpretation. Nobody is wrong, but the way I look at it is this was self-preservation. This is a person who was a coward, who did not live up to the ideals, and he sent a whole lot of people to their deaths. And when it was his turn, he didn't want to face it. I'm going to pick up comments because I know we got a few up under here. Schrodinger's Section 31 agents. We don't know if they are or aren't until a later writer canonizes it either way. Isn't that something? Isn't that something how it works? Same on Voyager. I don't remember what we were talking about. I'm sorry. Special Ops has always been a section of Starfleet. Section 31 is more CIA. The rest of the soldiers at the MASH unit knew who Trask and his unit was. Section 31 should be unknown to rank and file. That makes sense. Justice says it also had the chain of command 1 and 2 feel, also in terms of trauma, and the TNG Captain Maxwell and O'Brien episodes. Also, yes. How's M'Benga going to feel when McCoy comes onto his ships and takes the chief medical officer role, and M'Benga has to play backup? It could be very well that his mental health creates that issue. We might see a situation where that is not a choice, that was not something that was stripped from him. It was something that he gave up. Ms. Powell said, M'Benga may like the lack of ultimate authority in the TOS sick bay. Yeah, it might be something. Yeah, it might be something that he says, I don't want this. I don't want this responsibility, not this level of it. Wingray says, I found it interesting that the actor who played Ra is just coming off the show Barry, which was also all about PTSD. I'm gonna have to watch Barry. Now, one thing about Ra, and I guess let's see. One thing about this character that I did not particularly like, and I know this is me being superficial, this is the worst Klingon hair job I think I have ever seen. I have never seen, I know they were trying to do something different and they were going with these like kind of dreadlocks. They could have, this looked bad. It looked bad. But okay, that was just a superficial thing. But usually the Klingons' hair y'all know the Klingons' hair be laid. This looked bad. So Robert Wisdom has been around for a long time. Yes. Clarence says, I think what sits at me more about the complicity is turning an eye. Should he have dug deeper? And how will this affect them in the future? We already see what happened to Pike last time he turned an eye. So, yeah, I got you, Clarence. agreed. Coward who sees the opportunity, but it is also plausible that he was stuck in his evil deeds as a general. And this is like the director said. You know, yep, this is a chance at him surviving this war, not having to die in this war. But also, I did feel like it was pretty crappy to send soldiers after children to kill civilians. Excuse me, sorry. And yeah, that was I think, like they said, all of these things can exist in this one person. And even though I did not like the character when I met him, when he walked on the bridge, I did not like him. And there are those who are saying that, oh, Ortega should have gotten a dressing down. She may have. Pike may have spoken to her, because a real leader is not going to berate their crew in front of company. We'll have that conversation behind closed doors. So we don't know what happened there. A lot of Ortega's was grating on me until I look at it out of the lens of a person being forced or feeling forced. A person feeling forced to do something that is damaging to their mental health. Like, what the hell, Starfleet? What the hell? Don't you guys realize that, that this is it's not an imaginary thing? It's very hard for me to even be in a room with a person that I simply don't like. If I just simply don't like you. But if I have real grounded reasons for not liking you, such as you killed civilians in a war, you guys were animalistic in your war effort, then I think the Starfleet was wrong. It's two left shoes for sending them, or for forcing Pike to say, "Hey, we need the war veterans to put on a brave face and to embrace this war criminal, or what you guys think is a war criminal." We find out that not only is he a coward, not only is he a turncoat, but he's also a freaking liar, because he was not the person that he uh, presented himself to be. Even though he avoided talking about it, he allowed people to think he was one thing, he was something else. And yes, I do understand that there are there are times that deception can be a good thing, but I just did not like this character. Now, he presented himself as a likable character, and that's what I liked about him least. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Wingray says, I bet Worf would have called him a coward and compared him to a Ferengi. I bet he would have too. Miss Powell said Ra's words to M'Benga at the end, where he's saying that all of his work will be undone. He's calling M'Benga stubborn. I think he would have killed M'Benga to cover it up. I think he would have too. But now, of course, it makes sense either way. But I do believe that in order for him to save face, that he would have killed M'Benga. And he would have said that it was self-defense. Yeah. Clarence says the entire Butcher of Jagal moniker may have even been one that he didn't invent, but embraced when hoisted upon him. And again, seized the opportunity. And that's exactly what he did. Because, okay, when people came into the chamber and found his lieutenants all dead and him gone, and they automatically assumed that he was the person who killed them. As a matter of fact, we take ourselves back to the first episode of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, when that Klingon told M'Benga, if you were on the moon of Jagal, you would be dead. They didn't know that M'Benga was the Butcher of Jagal. They didn't know that he was the person who took everybody out. So in order to make himself look better, Ra says, "Well, yeah, I'll accept the blame for that, and I'll look like a traitor to the Klingon people, but I'll be revered in the Federation, and they're going to protect me." They've already look at this. They're holding their own in a war against the Klingons. They got some badass secret operations type military groups who could come in and whoop Klingon ass. So yeah, I need to be over here with them where they can protect me, and I'll be revered as the butcher of y'all. I killed my own men, and I can have the fable. I killed my own men because I was disgusted by what they did in the name of war. And the whole time, Butcher Jagal been under Starfleet, been on the Enterprise the whole time. Talk about a small universe, huh? Oh, now that even is a good thought. He killed himself. The last thing we hear in their scuffle is M'Benga shout, "No." He sacrificed himself to give M'Benga relief and to atone for his sins. Now, you know what? I can get on board with that. Look, I was looking at it like we had two options. Either M'Benga killed him in self-defense, or M'Benga killed him in an act of vengeance. But now that you've put this third option in front of me, I like that. And the angle, the way that he was stabbed, it definitely could have been self-inflicted. I I agree. Yeah. But then you don't want to, and he doesn't know, like, will he be martyred? Yeah, because when the man got on the ship, I automatically thought to myself, after he witnessed what happened, and I have not clicked the slide. We haven't talked about this really in its official capacity. So let's read this real quick. Under the Cloak of War, Season 2, Episode 8, written by Davy, Perez, directed by Jeff Byrd. Our star dates run from 1875.4 to 1877.5. Captain Pike and his crew welcome a Klingon defector aboard the Enterprise, but his presence triggers the revelation of some shocking secrets. Now, when he got on the ship and he witnessed the episode on the bridge with Ortega's, and then when Spock gave him the Rectagino, I thought I was going to see him break in that moment. I thought that he was about to break character as far as being this peaceful, peace-loving, new type Klingon. Woke, as I guess some people would say, a woke Klingon. I thought we were going to see a break in the facade when he burned his hands. I thought he was about to snap, but then he centered himself. He calmed himself, and he was talked about, we can move on, but he had to go to sick bay. But I thought in those moments, and this dude gonna be lucky to get off this ship alive, the way things are starting off. And how wrong or how right did I know that I did not know I was going to be that right when I thought that. Miss Powell said, I think that his head was an attempt to bridge the discovery Klingons. I'm talking about his hair, girl. Now the head, I can see it is more, there are more ridges over more of his head. It's not like it's just the forehead. But I'm talking about like how these dreads is starting, where they're starting at on his head. That's not about the right. Ra is like a Ducat. Had Ducat done the right thing, and he could be right just in case. Good comparison, yes. He couldn't be right if he even when he thought he was trying to be right. Ducat. And who was the high up who gave that order? The Vulcan from the court episode. Look, whoever gave that order sucks, because we know this in the 21st century, that you don't do anything that's going to jeopardize the mental health of people who are trapped in a floating city with one another. This is not like that they can go somewhere else, that they can get in a car and drive away or something. They are trapped in a floating city with one another. You cannot force them to be in the presence of something that's going to literally make them sick. And with a person like Mbenga, with the of a certain skill set, you don't know how he was going to act. Now, many people may not know that he was in this special ops group. Many people, it might not be as out of a thing as it is to when they were on the moon of Jagal, but somebody knows. Pike definitely knows. That's why he took him on that one away mission with him, because he knew that Mbenga has hands. He knows it. So you got a person like that who can snap, is suffering from panic attacks and PTSD, will snap at any moment. And then you put them in basically a fishbowl with one of the people who created that set of tension for him. That was wrong. That was wrong on Starfleet's behalf. Wingray says the Habat was a traditional Klingon ritual suicide. According to law and ritual, when a Klingon could not stand and face their enemies as a warrior, and they had become a burden. Oh, you're talking about I remember. Yeah, they had to Dreamwalker said, couldn't Mbenga have just said the guy self-inflicted his wounds if that happened? He could have. He said, don't use woke. I'll never do it again. I just thought it was funny. I don't care nothing about no woke. But yeah, I guess he could have just said, look, I didn't do it. But then, did Mbenga say anything? Chapel gave her statement. Chapel said what she saw. That doesn't necessarily mean that Mbenga co-signed that. It just means that Chapel and La'an gave him a way out. Mbenga actually yells, "Don't!" Even more suggestive. So yeah, so maybe he said to himself, yeah, and I'm going. I mean, I don't know why he wouldn't tell, but yeah, I guess he could tell, but then it would rob this guy. He would have to admit that he was the butcher of Jagal, and it would rob this guy of his quote unquote honorable death that Grace was just describing to us. Justin says, I think Rob was a coward, but did change also. But Mbenga is good and caring, but he is still a killer. Rob was a mirror for Mbenga as well, and it shook him to the core. The ugly stuff that happened in the name of war. It's just Chapel has been protecting Mbenga since the beginning of this season. She sure has. She has proven or shown that they are super tight because of their experiences in the war together. And that is one thing that I think they have that Ortega's doesn't. They had one another in that situation. And Ortega's, she's on an island. Yes, so is Ortega's is what we learned about her in this episode is that she is extremely but we've seen this before, but she's extremely undisciplined. But it was wrong to expect her to be disciplined in the situation that she was forced to be in. Because and I think going back to one of the people, it may have been Facebook, who said, "Oh, she should have gotten a dressing down." She may have gotten a dressing down for saying what she did in front of this distinguished guest, and that's why she probably was saying, yeah, "You're going to attend this," because she didn't. Why she didn't? She wasn't necessary. I need you to attend this dinner to kind of atone for what you did on the bridge today. And now she feels like she has to. But she's a very undisciplined person, but very good at her job. And some of her not being a disciplined person could very well be because she fought in this war. But people are so uh they're not forgiving of what these characters have individually been through. They only are seeing them as part of a crew when this crew is made up of individuals. And I like that we are seeing that they're not perfect. They have faults, they have flaws, but a lot of what they're doing is for the greater good. Even the speech that Mbanga gave to Ensign Inman, where he talked about why we do this. We are risking our lives here so that our families and our loved ones in the rest of the galaxy might one day know peace. Oh my goodness. And I liked that, and I know this is like going to I like that this was a conversation had between two black characters. I really and truly do, because some of the best lines in Star Trek have been doled out to other people. Now, I enjoyed seeing this conversation between two characters, from different sectors of the galaxy, uh, but seeing each other eye to eye. I enjoyed that part as well. Killing Mbanga could have been a serious honor gain for a cowardly Klingon, even if it's only for himself. But now, I mean, shoot, there's no celebration for that honor when he's like a, a house of one. There's no celebration. He would not be celebrated for doing that. In fact, he was cowardly because he didn't want to die. And if he would have killed Mbanga for blah blah reason, trying to cover up his own uh, uh, lies, then who knows what the punishment would have been from the Federation. Oh, this guy, I really did not like Ra, especially after Ensign Inman made his statement that they kept, that their Jagal, the butcher of Jagal, basically kept him alive just so they could continue to torture him. Then when he showed back up with the special ops unit, I guess he was like, well, now we got to kill you. Oh, agreed. Rob was definitely Mbanga's mirror. Great writing. Oh, I cannot stand Ra. Chapel definitely lied, but I don't think she lied about the fight. She lied by omission, by not telling Pike and La'an that the knife belonged to Mbanga. But did the knife? I mean, it did turn into his knife, but it started off being Ra's knife. That's how his DNA. Well, the other guy's DNA. Okay. So the knife was Ra's. He left it in the Andorian, and that's where Mbanga got it from, right? So Mbanga did have Ra's knife. At least that's the way I read it. Like, I could have been reading that scene altogether wrong. If Mbanga told, it would likely undo the good work Ra actually did do. His death is good because he was a horrible man, but by potentially lying, Mbanga can once again protect the Federation. Okay, I'll buy that. I will buy that. It was very well written. Very well written. What's up, honey bun? Justice says, true, Wingrace, I agree. I believe Mbanga feels for all the good he's done. He also still has that shadow side that still surfaces, like when he took Protocol 12 again. He fears he is still in the war. Yeah, it's hard to get yourself pulled out of it. The knife was Trask's. The knife was Trask. We never saw Raw with that knife. It was basic Klingon knife. That's why I was wondering. I thought that was the knife that Ra or whomever killed Trask with. And that's why M'Benga said, I'm going to use this. He grabbed that knife to use that as the blade to kill them with. Like I said, yeah, that could have been that. That might be another one of them scenes where it's like I got to watch that one again to see exactly what were they trying to say with that knife, or has not truly changed. So yeah, let me see. Let me go back to my notes page and let me see if there's anything that we haven't said that needs saying. Doop 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 doop. Oh, I didn't talk about Clint Howard returning for his 5th Star Trek appearance. So he was an Orion and Discovery's Will You Take My Hand. He was a Ferengi in Enterprise's Acquisition. He was a human in Deep Space Nine's past tense, and he was Baylock in Corbomite Maneuver. And also this week he was Lieutenant Martinez. I couldn't remember the character's name. So we saw once again Clint Howard in the house. And also he introduced us to the moon of Jagal and their MASH unit basically. And as far as the medical side of thing and us seeing the atrocities of war, they showed us quite a bit this time, didn't they? They were not trying to hold back. We got a really good look at how horrible war, even in enlightened times, could be. Oh gosh. Right. We never saw who killed Trask. Trask. My error question. There should have been 4 DNA samples on the knife. The other Klingon general, 2 lieutenants, and then Ra. There were only 2 old blood samples. So who was the other Klingon general? I know that the 2 lieutenants. Oh, because he killed 3? Is that what we're talking about? There should have been 4. Okay, so the other Klingon general, 2 lieutenants, and then Ra. There were only 2 old blood samples. And that's what made me think that knife is Ra. That's part of what made me think that knife was Ra's knife, because his DNA would have been on it already. But it still doesn't equal up to M'Benga supposedly killed 3 people to get to try to get to Ra, right? I don't know. I'm confused. Yeah, there is something really funky about that situation. This was a deep episode and it was a big swing. I think all of the big swings have been these last 5 episodes of the season, and we don't know what's going to happen in Hegemony, but yeah, we got some. I think there was some big these are some big swings, period, because it's also the placement of this episode. It's like we had, yay, beautiful, friendly crossover event. And then we have horrific, bloodthirsty Klingons killing each other, and M'Benga's a murderer, and all of this. We had that in this episode, and then next episode we get a musical. So yes, it's like even the way they've ordered this thing is wow, it's heavy. And I guess we needed those 2 lighter episodes to kind of balance this one out, because this was heavy. Wingray says, also, remember M'Benga said in the flashback he was doing all this for his family. Well, he no longer has his daughter and his wife doesn't seem to be around. Nope. He got to play CMO. Good for him. Talking about Clint. there were 3 Klingons who were killed that made the legend the Butcher of Jagal. And there were. And yeah, and I'm trying to figure out, yeah, you're right. Where is the third? There actually should be 5 DNA samples on there because you definitely should still have Mbanga's if he used that knife, right? So we should have Mbanga's, you should have Ra, and then you should have the other 3 generals. Yep. Okay, Clarence got us a quote. Starfleet records tell us the DNA belongs to the 3 warlords he killed. I think they were saying it had the DNA of the other 3 Klingons in addition to Ra's. That makes sense. That makes sense. So I honestly, I believe that that was Ra's knife too. But I could be wrong. I could be reading that whole situation wrong. But that makes sense, Clarence. Thank you for getting that quote for us. Wingray says, I also really like the scene of needing to delete the character in the pattern buffer. Don't know if you mentioned it yet. I did not mention it, but you are correct. And him being the one to do it, Chapel is kind of waffling over it because that was she came on this planet or on this moon, and this was the first thing that she ran into. This is the first medical situation she runs into. So of course she's going to hesitate. She doesn't want to kill this man. She knows if she hits the erase button, he's gone and gone forever. And yeah, him having to hit that button and delete that buffer. Wow. Did Mbanga keep any trophies from the war? The only trophy that I saw was that knife. He continued to carry that knife around with him the same way he had that Protocol 12. Now, why he kept the knife? It had to have been there because he never thought that he'd run into the General Dakra again, right? So he never thought he was going to run into him again. So the only reason he could had to keep that knife was as a trophy. Yeah, that transporter sequence was disturbing. All of it, just so much disturbing-ish. But uh, we needed to see that even in the Federation, even in Starfleet, war is war. It's ugly. Decisions have to be made, and they have to be made at split second. I really enjoyed this episode, and by enjoyed it, I mean uh, just like me and Miss Powell here, the thinking. We're trying to think through what we saw. They didn't spell everything out for us. It's left us room to converse about this thing and to to have different interpretations of what it was that we saw in this situation. Because for me, at the end of the episode, I literally believed that Mbanga just killed him. I didn't think it was self-defense. I thought Mbanga just killed him. Then we have that, oh, but it was self-defense, and you giving me reasons why it was self-defense. Then we get this was a suicide, basically, and you're giving me reasons why it was that. I I think this episode is left so much up to interpretation that we could be talking about this. You know how I like to have those philosophical type conversations. I can see us coming back to this episode again and again with different interpretations of everything that we saw in this episode. Now, there's some things that are universal, like this look right here. Universal. We all know that if Wenger could have crawled across that table and choked the life out of Raw right there at the dinner table, he would have done it. And guess what? So would have Ortega's. Ortega's would have got in Raw's butt, but she was keeping her face. Ms. Powell says, but the DNA list that the computer listed only listed Kif, Klingon Captain somebody, and Ra. Did Mbanga kill the other general by another means? I don't. I'm gonna have to. I gotta. I gotta look and see. I know I can just pull the doggone. Oh, I don't have that. I don't have that slide. I don't think I have a screenshot of that. I could try to find a screenshot of it and see. You know, I could find a screenshot probably of him, all of the Klingons, and also of the screen, but it'll take me a second to find it. Clarence says he may have kept it as a reminder of who he never wanted to be again. Also, not sure if you mentioned it. They said they had, yeah, that he had the most hand-to-hand combat kills. And I didn't say it like that. I said Pike knew that M'Benga has hands because honestly, if you're fighting heads up with some Klingons and you have the most kills in the Federation, you are a dangerous man. And you just say, you know what? There's other uses of my talent. I'll be a doctor. and you got this Jason Bourne thing going on. Wow. Justice says there is an episode there with the transporter deletion. I could see something come out of that in the future. But I mean, that happened so far in the past. Oh, Clarence got me. Where did it go? Okay. I'm going to thank you, Clarence. I'm going to put this up on the screen here and we can take a look at it all together. Now, I can't see. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Clarence got the knife analysis that I was just talking about finding. He found it first. I am glad that you shared. Let me see. Window. There we are. Now it's just a matter of, can I make it bigger? Okay, so it says, of course I can't see this. Doggone it. I can't see it. And it's playing with me. DNA analysis. It says Ambassador Dakra, General Braval, General Kiff, Captain somebody. So yeah, we got 3 and Dakra. So it's all there. It's all there. I don't know, and I don't know if y'all can see it. I know what I can do. Gosh. Open it in the browser. Lord have mercy. And try to make things bigger. And try to make things smaller because I can't see it now. Okay, so let me bring this up again. Share the screen. So I don't know, if you guys can see it. DNA analysis, Ambassador Dakra, General Graval, Commander Kiff, and there is another Captain Rulus. Right. Then we also have fingerprints on it were Ambassador Dakra and the and Dr. Mbanga. So everybody's accounted for on here. Did Mbanga keep the knife to remind him of his darkness, protect Starfleet from evidence of the assassinations, or as a trophy? I mean, would they have to protect Starfleet from the evidence of the assassinations? They were in war. They were sent. He was literally sent there to and Mbanga said it was like a suicide mission. They were sent there to do exactly what he went there and did. So he would have been even more of a war hero if if he would have gone back to the Federation and said, "Yeah, I killed them all." His decision to kill the soldier may foreshadow the fate of his daughter. But I mean, but ain't she survived? Miss Powell. Oh, Clarence, you didn't see that DNA list. So yes, there was the fingerprint list on one side, and then there was the DNA list on the other. But it did account for all four. So we need Odo to be Columbo. Yes. Now, Wingray says, now I'm starting to wonder about why Ra wanted to do this full contact Klingon martial arts with Mbanga since he was so opposed to other Klingon things. Was he perhaps hoping to die in combat? I think he really was using that as a diplomatic technique where he was trying to do something with him that he enjoyed do Mbanga, because Mbanga does this regularly. So he was like, well, we'll do this thing that you enjoy. And while we in here doing this, I can ask you for a favor. I'm just wondering, wow, just thinking out loud. Wow, he dipped up out of whatever that little room that he was in where his lieutenants were killed. He must have dipped up out of there quick because he didn't know that was Mbanga who came in there to kill them. All the rest of Mbanga killed his three lieutenants, and Doc Rob was nowhere to be found. He was already in the wind. He didn't even see who came in the room to do them. Crazy, huh? Perfect. Odo is Columbo. Okay, great. That computer voice didn't say the other general's name. And Angus says, not only are generals legitimate military targets, there were no rules of engagement between humans and Klingons in that war. So yeah, and now we're back at, and where the Klingon war, okay, it ended. They're still not on happy terms with one another. So it ain't no really, Doc Ra was an ambassador and was somebody that they were trying to use to bridge these two cultures together. But I can almost 100% guarantee you that just because the Federation accepted Doc Ra as a person who had changed, the Klingons were not ever going to accept him as that. The Klingons were going to only see a coward. They were going to only see a traitor. And if they had the opportunity, they would do him in. And I don't know if, because this whole kind of Cold War situation they had going on, I don't know if it would have made a difference to the Federation that they killed Doc Ra, but I know it's not going to mean nothing to the Klingons that the Federation killed him. I know it's not. She survived for now. That sounds ominous. I like that too, Clarence, that they're shown there. He loves that how Strange New Worlds is adding flavor to the war we didn't see much of in Disco. Yeah, they decided they were going to go into an alternate universe and do all that things. And while that was all well and good, we need to come back. You can't just start no war and then think that everything, we come back and everything is all good. No. And I like the fact that we're revisiting it in these flashbacks and through the experiences of some of our favorite characters. You said you're okay with the flashbacks? Excuse me. And Ms. Powell says the Federation leadership has always used people, for political expediency. Of course, the U.S. hired former Nazi scientists. So that goes back to what I was saying at the top. If you just fought in a World War II, you uh, witness the atrocities of war, the things that were done to civilians by both sides of this war, all sides of this war. And then you get the United States bringing Werner von Braun and a whole gaggle of other freaking Nazi scientists over here to help move our scientific space exploration and weaponry to move that in a forward direction. How do you feel? That is a slap in the face. Yeah, I didn't like that Starfleet did that. Didn't like it at all. And look, you can see I got a new banner going down across the bottom of the screen. So please mark your calendars. Next week's Engage Live is going to be on Monday, August 7th at 4:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, because executive producer Ashton's first birthday is this weekend. So he has big plans for the weekend. We got people coming from out of town, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to be doing our live stream not on Sunday, but on Monday, because it's going to be a busy weekend. So hopefully you guys will be able to join me. Angus says that's something we didn't get a lot of in previous iterations of Star Trek flashbacks, right? That's like Pol Pot becoming an ambassador, and everybody's supposed to like it. Everybody's supposed to like it and pretend like you like it. As a matter of fact, we're all going to go down and sit down. We're going to go to Shoney's with Pol Pot. I will tell Ashton that you said happy birthday to him. He will probably not remember, but I do. I'm going to remember. Oh, I'll tell Ashton. I'll give him all of you guys' birthday wishes. Yeah, we're going to go to Shoney's with Pol Pot. We're going to sit and you're going to eat and you're going to have good conversation with him. You'll pretend like that him and Werner von Braun and Hitler himself could be sitting at the head of the table. We're going to pretend like they didn't do any of the stuff that they did. We're going to hold conversation and break bread with them at Shoney's. So yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't think. I guess I asked the question and I got plenty of answers. It has been a year already. That boy, and look, let me tell you, he's going to be a year old on Friday, and that little boy don't want to walk. Refuses to walk. I bet you he can, but he is refusing to do it. Just putting his foot down. Like, this is my last stand. Not realizing that you got a sister coming in a little over maybe 2 months now. And we need you walking, sir. Sir, I need you to be walking. I actually need you walking and sitting on the pot. But I can only have one. I'm going to need you walking, sir. Any speculation for the next episode? Just it's a lot of music. Now, I did say at the top of the episode, you weren't here yet, and I don't know if you've seen it yourself already, They got a music. They've got the previews of the songs of for Star Trek Subspace Rhapsody. They got the music on Apple iTunes. So if you look in the description of this live stream, there is a link where you can listen to the music. Now, there will be some slight spoilers. I haven't listened to the entire songs. I listened to bits of each of the songs, but I haven't listened to the entire songs. But they are available. Those songs, that playlist is available out there. And the again, the link is in the description box, and I got some titles here, and if you guys want, I can read the titles for you guys again. They are the main theme, status report, connect to your truth, how would that feel, private conversation, keeping secrets, I'm ready, I'm the X, keep us connected, we are the one, and the end credit medley. So now when you look at it on Apple iTunes, I guess it's iTunes, right? When you look at it, you'll see who is part of that song. So there are no real solos, I don't think, but there are a couple like kind of duets, and then there are the big ensemble songs. But you can see who is part of each one of the songs. And you can damn near hear it. You can almost hear it. Justice says my birthday is August 20th. The big 41 Leos in the house. Yep. You and Ashton. And oh, let me think now. Yeah, my niece. I got a niece. Her birthday is July 25th. So I think she's a Leo too. So yeah, all of y'all in the same little group. Freaky godlike alien shenanigans. I don't know, man. Something gonna happen. We saw the if you've not seen the clips, I know most of us have seen the clip for next week's episode. You got the one where they show a little bit of the singing. Then they have the one that they have Pelia, Uhura, and Spock talking about how they're going to send a message through subspace. And check if you haven't seen it, check it out, because I'm not getting godlike beings, but that does not necessarily mean that I'm right. I could be wrong. This next episode is going to surprise people. I'm going on record that it's a hit. I hope so. Miss Powell says, I think the chapel song may show her decision to break up with Spock. I'm still salty that Boimler is the first domino to doom their relationship. Oh gosh. Happy birthday to her too. Hey, you are August 20th too? Lord have mercy. August 20th is a big deal around here, huh? Happy birthday, guys. Well, I'm pretty sure I'll get to tell you guys that closer to that big day. Are we getting the two weirdest episodes of Star Trek in one season? Seems so. I think so. We got the crossover animated to live action, and then we get a musical. Wow. And Clarence is wishing you guys happy birthday a little early too. Don't worry, I'm gonna remember. You guys gonna hate that I remember, because I'm gonna come in here singing and everything. I might have a musical episode. So if anybody else is in this next little with in the Leo gang, let me know. Oh gosh. Next season we're gonna get puppets in a silent black and white episode. Oh my gosh, I would not be shocked at all if we got that. Yeah, like, musical review. I'm gonna write some songs and dance and everything for y'all. Have costume changes. Oh gosh. But anywho, yeah, that's it, y'all. I don't have anything else. It has been fun. It's dinner time. I will see you guys next week, Monday. Don't forget Monday, y'all. Monday. It's been fun. Thank you for joining. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out if you've not already done so. And also subscribe. Love you. Live long and prosper. Peace.